The girl went to the boxing gym. As soon as she struck a pose, she got kicked away. The guy behind her took the opportunity to produce milk. Though she is pretty and adorable, she refuses to be outdone, so she counterattacked. Surprisingly, this wasn't just any boxing gym. It specialized in training assassins. Since she is the only girl there, the men force her to do all the dirty work. However, she refused to back down. Her decision to be in a boxing gym wasn't only driven by a desire. Instead, she is leaving here because she wants to become strong to avenge her father. Her name is Yoon Jae-woo. Just a month ago, Jae-woo was a 10th grade student. Her life was constantly under the watchful eye of the police due to her father being a wanted fugitive. She's always under surveillance. Not only do her classmates avoid her, but even her teacher suggests she should quit school. Such a life forced her to the end. Frustrated, she returned to the classroom. A bully mocks her as a gangster's daughter and puts a bag of flour on her desk, mentioning her father's involvement in drugs. Faced with the ridicule of your classmates, this time she didn't want to hold back anymore, so she grabs the flour and hurls it at the girl. A fight ensues, pitting Jae-woo against 4 classmates. Despite being shoved against a wall, she fights back. Alone, she takes down 3 of them. When a classmate pulls a pencil as a threat, Jae-woo swiftly deals with her. She makes it clear that she won't be bullied. The classroom falls silent as the once arrogant girls tremble in fear. Who thought even criminals' daughters would know how to fight like that? Proving she can handle herself, Jae-woo grabs her bag and leaves. The teacher rushes in, but Jae-woo hands over her name tag and drops out before the school can kick her out. On her way back home, she got frustrated by the chasing police officer, so she smashes the cop car's side mirror as he watches her. The police give chase, but she outmaneuvers them and makes it back home. There's a cake and flowers from her father, Mr. Dong-hun, but she kicks them aside. She has been living alone for a while, but her father never talked to her and even stopped responding to her calls. It was because he was trying to stay out of the radar as much as possible. Frustrated by the negativity surrounding her, she vents her anger on him. She holds him responsible for all the hardships in her life. In a fit of emotion, she declares him dead to her. Feeling guilty, Mr. Dong-hun visits her at night, but outside her apartment, an unknown person approaches him. Hearing noises, Jae-woo tries to open the door, but Mr. Dong-hun tightly grips the handle to shield her from the stranger. The assailant shoots him, and Jae-woo witnesses her father's death. After the assailant leaves, Jae-woo opens the door, only to discover her father lifeless on her doorstep. She tries to wake him up, but he's already gone. At Mr. Dong-hun's funeral, his friend and boss, Mr. Choi Moo-jin, pays his respects to the departed. He is the biggest gangster in the city. Seeking justice for her father, Jae-woo goes to the police station. Sadly, they lack evidence and can't proceed with the investigation. Left with no choice, Jae-woo turns to Mr. Moo-jin for help. When she shares her plan for revenge, Moo-jin gives her a knife and demands she kill him. Frightened, Jae-woo hesitates, so Moo-jin slaps her, making her understand that she can't avenge her father without knowing how to take a life. Though he refuses further assistance, Jae-woo remains determined to seek revenge. At night, a knock echoes at her door. Fearful, she stays silent, prompting the man to depart. After he leaves, Jae-woo follows him, but he speeds away in his car. Determined for revenge, Jae-woo uses a blurry CCTV photo to identify the murderer. A mysterious caller claims knowledge of the man. However, upon confrontation, they reveal themselves as mere troublemakers. They rob her and start tormenting her. As she passes out, they kidnap her. Before things escalate, Moo-jin intervenes and saves her. Witnessing Jae-woo's resolve, he decides to assist her. He takes her to a boxing gym where future assassins are trained. Instead of teaching her, the boys treat her as a maid. Some even attempt to take advantage, but Jae-woo stands strong and refuses to back down. Jae-woo persists in her training, becoming Moo-jin's student. He instructs her on striking an opponent's vital points for victory. Practicing together, Jae-woo inadvertently leaves an impression on Moo-jin by hitting him in the chest during a sudden attack. In a high-stakes boxing competition involving 20 fighters, Jae-woo uses Moo-jin's tactics. She targets vital areas like lips, eyes, and genitals to defeat each opponent. Advancing through the rounds, she faces the final opponent, Gang Jae. The confrontation turns brutal, with Gang Jae initially dominating. He chokes her with a chain and hurls her against the fence. The tide shifts several times until Jae-woo stages a comeback using her combat skills. In a pivotal moment, she delivers a decisive elbow strike to Gangji's face. It makes him unconscious. Mr. Mujin declares Jaiwoo the victorious winner of the intense match. When Gangjae wakes up, he decides to take revenge on Jaiwoo for his humiliation. While she is bathing, he drugs her water. When she is under the drug's influence, she enters her room with his friend to sexually assault her. At first, Jaiwoo is unable to defend herself. However, when her father's ash pot falls and breaks, she picks up the glass piece and stabs the friend. She then escapes the room, with Gangjae following her with a hammer. He breaks her arm, but before he can do anything further, men gather around him. For attacking Jaiwoo, Mujin decides to cut one of his limbs. In the end, he slashes his face as a punishment. Mr. Mujin then has a meeting with Jaiwoo and tells her that she is now considered dead in the eyes of the world. From now on, she will be going by the name So-hee. Mujin passes her the gun left by the murderer at the scene, which they manage to recover. He discloses that a police officer is Mr. Donghun's killer, but beyond that, there's no further information. Taking this to heart, Jaiwoo diligently improves her combat abilities. She not only joins Mujin's group but also secures a spot in the police department. He promises unwavering loyalty to the organization. It is decided that if she ever betrays them, they can eliminate her without hesitation. Years roll by, and Jaiwoo stays committed to her job as a cop. One day, she embarks on a mission to arrest a drug dealer named Park Chan-gu in the act. Inside a building, she spots him conducting a deal. Meanwhile, her lookout associate tells her that her mission coincides with a narcotics department sting operation involving another undercover cop. Despite knowing the complexity of the situation, Jaiwoo doesn't back down. She smashes through the room's glass window. She is ready to apprehend Chan-gu. Chaos erupts as a fight ensues between Jaiwoo and the gangsters. Thanks to her combat skills, Jaiwoo successfully arrests the drug dealer. However, her interruption frustrates Sergeant John Pildo. He steps in and demands Jaiwoo to let him arrest Park Chan-gu. Jaiwoo refuses initially. However, when she receives confirmation about Pildo's mission, she reluctantly lets the drug dealer go with him. As she prepares to leave, Pildo expresses a wish to never cross paths with her again. He is clearly annoyed by the interference. Jaiwoo faces the consequences of her mission interruption when Cha Jiho, the head of the Narcotics Bureau, calls her into the office. Interestingly, Jiho is the same hooded man who had visited Jaiwoo after her father's death. As he reads through Jaiwoo's file, he discovers that she had applied to the Narcotics Bureau twice before, but her applications were rejected. However, seeing her determination and realizing she's on a personal quest, he recognizes her potential and approves her application. This decision doesn't sit well with Sergeant Pildo, who's visibly displeased to see her. Jiho goes on to inform Pildo that not only will Jaiwoo be joining the department, but she will also be his new partner. Later, Pildo digs into Chan-gu's case and stumbles upon a lead regarding another dealer named Mango. They head to Mango's building with orders for Jaiwoo to make the arrest. When stopped by a security guard, Jaiwoo swiftly uses her combat skills to take him down. Amid Jaiwoo's confrontation with the goons, Pildo starts getting concerned about her delay. He decides to enter the building and is astonished to find that Jaiwoo has single-handedly subdued several men. Mango gets caught, but he remains tight-lipped about the new drugs and his supplier. While Pildo searches for the drugs, Jaiwoo scours the bar. She discovers a bottle containing the new substance. Mango was brought in for interrogation, but he adamantly refuses to tell the supplier's name. According to him, the person who supplies him with drugs is scary. He is the guy who you don't want to mess up. The scene shifts to a pub, revealing the supplier of the new drug to be none other than Gangjae. Despite his prior dismissal from the organization, Gangjae has resurfaced in this illicit business. In the midst of everything, Jaiwoo delves into the database and uncovers her father's case file. The records reveal that during Mr. Donghun's murder, Officer Jiho was engaged in a different operation. Once again, Jaiwoo faces a frustrating dead end in her quest for revenge for her father. Meanwhile, Mujin decides to pay a visit to his drug-making facility. The narcotics department catches wind of this intel Prior to the mission briefing, the phones of all the team members are taken away. In the briefing, Jae-woo learns that the target for today's operation is none other than Mr. Moojin. The police have been monitoring him through hidden cameras installed in his hotel. However, Jae-woo faces a dilemma as she has no means of communicating with Moojin. She is forced to proceed with the mission. The police silently infiltrate the factory and make their way to the meth production area. Jae-woo is powerless as she knows that Pildo's camera can record her every move. When Pildo heads downstairs to arrest Moojin, a sudden shot rings out, creating chaos. Seizing the opportunity, Moojin escapes. A chemical fire erupts in the factory, further aiding his getaway. Jae-woo rushes downstairs to assist Moojin. She is holding her pistol at Pildo from behind. A massive explosion occurs, allowing Moojin and his associate to flee by jumping into the water. Jiho is left puzzled about the source of the gunshot. During the investigation, Jae-woo assists in finding a gun presumed to be the one used in the shooting. The gun bears a scratch similar to the one recovered from Dong-hun's murder. It's revealed that Jae-woo used the pistol to distract Pildo and enable Moojin's escape. Still uncertain about the gunshot, Jiho checks his team members' weapons to ensure none of them fired the shot. To his dismay, he finds no evidence among them. Angry over the raid, Moojin instructs his right-hand man, Taeju, to track down the culprit responsible for leaking their information. Jae-woo takes the initiative and calls Moojin to ensure he's safe. During the conversation, she confesses to firing the pistol and intentionally leaving the gun behind. Her motive is to unveil the truth surrounding the pistol's owner, who she thinks is her captain Jiho. Jae-woo also reveals the existence of hidden cameras in Moojin's hotel that tipped off the police about their plans at the factory. Following Moojin's orders, all the cameras are located and disabled. This action leaves Jiho and his team at a frustrating dead end in their investigation. On the other hand, Gang Jae makes a vengeful return to Moojin's gym. He is driven by a singular purpose, to demonstrate his newfound power and settle the score. What unfolds is a brutal bloodbath, with Gang Jae inflicting pain on the gym members just as he experienced. Taeju, in particular, becomes a target. Gang Jae breaks his arm as an act of revenge. The police are alerted to the crime scene, prompting Jae-woo to visit the gym. The sight of the aftermath leaves her visibly shaken. Anxious, she turns to Pildo, questioning whether Moojin was among the casualties. She breathes a sigh of relief upon learning that Moojin wasn't present at the gym during the attack. Meanwhile, Moojin reviews the CCTV footage of the gym and discovers Gangji's role in the attack. 4 of the organization members died. During the funerals, Jae-woo attends to catch a brief glimpse of Moojin. It was to ensure he was unharmed. On her way back, she unexpectedly encounters Pildo, but her helmet conceals her identity. Mr. Jiho visits Moojin and emphasizes that he won't give up until he is behind bars. Despite the warning, Moojin remains confident that Jiho can never catch him. As they review evidence at the office, Pildo gets word from a colleague about CCTV footage revealing Gangji's involvement in the gym incident. Jae-woo was taken aback to realize that the person who had previously tried to take her life has returned with even more power. Meanwhile, the team uncovers Gangji's prior ties to Moojin and his gym through old connections. Pildo assumes Moojin will lay low after the incident, but Mr. Jiho, knowing Moojin well, is certain that he won't stop until he exacts his revenge. It's clear Jiho has a deep understanding of Moojin's mindset. As anticipated, Moojin instructs Taeju to track down Gang Jae. He is unable to bear witnessing his organization crumbling due to this situation. Jiho devises a strategic plan. They decide to release Mango to observe Moojin's reaction and actions. The idea is to catch Moojin when he's immersed in seeking his own revenge. Jae-woo expresses concerns about potential casualties, but Jiho remains unfazed. Jae-woo takes it upon herself to inform Moojin about Jiho's scheme, prompting Moojin to craft a counterplan. It appears he's willing to play along with Jiho's game. He intends to turn the tables and destroy Jiho's plan from within. Mango was released, and a team of undercover cops is strategically placed in his pub for surveillance. Jiho briefs his team on the next steps. He reveals that he has found someone within the organization who may be willing to cooperate with them. As he sets out to meet this informant, Jae-woo decides to follow him. However, Pildo unexpectedly appears before Jae-woo, revealing that it was a trap to expose Moojin's spy. A confrontation ensues. Jae-woo manages to overpower Pildo and make her escape. On her way out, she spots Taeju in his car. Mr. Jiho and Pildo now suspect the presence of a spy within their team. Jiho is convinced that Jaiwoo might be the culprit, as the leaks seem to coincide with her joining the team. He orders Pildo to closely monitor her every move. As Gangjae watches the CCTV footage from Mango's casino, he discovers Jaiwoo's new identity. Following Jiho's orders, Pildo follows Jaiwoo while she visits the forensic service to obtain the pistol's report. While Jaiwoo continues her investigation on Gangjae, Pildo confronts her. He questions her why she's operating solo. Jaiwoo manages to alleviate his suspicions. They decide to follow Mango, hoping he'll lead them to Gangjae. Their pursuit takes them to an old car factory where Mango meets Gangjae. However, it turns out to be a trap. Gangjae anticipated Jaiwoo's pursuit through Mango. He signals his goons, and they attack Pildo and Jaiwoo. Despite a fearless fight, they eventually get captured. Gangjae is delighted to finally exact his revenge. He plans to torment Jaiwoo as much as he endured under Mujin's hand. The fight escalates as Gangjae's men attack Mujin. However, his exceptional fighting skills allow him to face and subdue each adversary. Gangjae contacts Mujin through one of the men's phones and reveals Jaiwoo's abduction. Mujin springs into action. Meanwhile, Gangjae traps Jaiwoo and Pildo in a van and places them beneath a crushing machine. Their hands are cuffed, and there are no means of escape. As the van begins to get crushed, Mujin arrives just in time. He rams his car into the machine to disable it. Jaiwoo manages to escape, but Pildo remains trapped inside, still handcuffed. With the police approaching, Mujin is forced to flee the scene. Meanwhile, Jaiwoo struggles to free Pildo. As she attempts to release him, the machine starts up again, slowly crushing the car. In a desperate move, Jaiwoo manages to pull the machine's wire and finally stops it. Pildo is saved, but Jaiwoo collapses due to excessive blood loss. Devastated by Jaiwoo's injury, Pildo's focus shifts from pursuing Mujin to capturing Gangjae. Amid the chaos, Mujin decides it's best to send Jaiwoo out of the country as quickly as possible. Concerned about her safety and the risk of exposure, he believes that her leaving is the safest option, especially with Gangjae on the loose. Mujin communicates this decision to Jaiwoo, but she adamantly refuses. Despite being aware of the dangers to her life, Jaiwoo was determined to stay and pursue justice by capturing her father's murderer. The situation escalates as Mujin eliminates a cop who was aware of Jaiwoo's true identity. Meanwhile, Gangjae reaches out to Jiho and offers assistance in capturing Mujin. Mujin receives information on Gangjae's whereabouts. With his men, he moves to confront him. Unbeknownst to them, the police lie in wait, planning to catch them in the act. A fierce battle erupts between the two gangs, resulting in Mujin finally overpowering Gangjae. Despite Gangjae's attempts to flee, Mujin relentlessly pursues him. In the meantime, the police successfully arrest the remaining gang members. Jaiwoo arrives at the scene and witnesses Mujin chasing Gangjae. A brutal confrontation ensues between the two. Mujin manages to wound Gangjae, momentarily gaining the upper hand. However, Gangjae seizes an opportunity and strikes back. He viciously stabs Mujin multiple times. Before Gangjae can deliver the fatal blow, Jaiwoo intervenes. She fires her weapon, allowing Mujin to escape. Despite Captain Jiho cornering him at gunpoint, Mujin manages to flee, aided by Taeju. Meanwhile, Gangjae threatens to expose her identity. Pildo arrives, but before Gangjae can reveal the truth, Jaiwoo shoots him and silences him forever. The situation takes a drastic turn as Mujin's life hangs in the balance due to severe blood loss. Unable to seek help from a hospital, he turns to an associate and a retired doctor residing in a temple. Meanwhile, Jaiwoo is taken aback when she receives a letter from the late Gangjae. Inside, she finds a picture of her father alongside Gihu, who's donning a police uniform. Upon receiving a call from Mujin, Jaiwoo visits him at the temple and questions him about the photograph. It's during this conversation that Mujin discloses a startling revelation. Mr. Donghun was actually a cop sent by Gihu to infiltrate their organization. However, Donghun betrayed Gihu and sided with them, leading to his eventual demise by Gihu. Mujin admits to lying to Jaiwoo in order to strengthen her resolve. He hoped it would fuel her determination to seek retribution for her father's murder. Meanwhile, Gihu returns intoxicated from a night out with Pildo. As he sits down, he is viciously attacked and stabbed multiple times by an unknown assailant. Jaiwoo arrives at the location and is alarmed to find blood on the doorknob. Upon entering, Gihu, in a state of panic, mistakes Jae-woo for his attacker and fires a shot at her. Pildo, hearing the gunshot, rushes to the scene. Instead of giving aid, Jae-woo confronts Gi-hoo and presses a dagger against his throat. She demands answers about her father's fate 5 years ago. At this moment, Gi-hoo realizes Jae-woo's true identity as his best friend's daughter. He reveals that Mr. Dong-hun was an undercover cop embedded in Mujin's organization. Before he can disclose the complete truth, Pildo's arrival forces Gi-hoo to hand Jae-woo evidence of her father's loyalty to the police until his tragic end. As Jae-woo escapes just before Pildo arrives, he catches a glimpse of her backpack. Upon inspecting it, Jae-woo discovers letters penned by Mr. Dong-hun until the day of his demise. The letters unveil Dong-hun's unwavering loyalty to the police. It is revealed that Dong-hun had gifted Mu-jin a lighter with a hidden tracker. It leads Mu-jin to discover Dong-hun's betrayal. It is because of this he subsequently murders him with his own firearm. Shattered by the revelation that she unknowingly aided her father's killer, Jae-woo has a mental breakdown. She pulls over her car, venting her frustration and anger by striking herself. After composing herself, she removes the organization's tattoo from her chest, ready to take revenge. The situation grows dire as Gi-hoo remains hospitalized. Meanwhile, Mu-jin receives word from his lawyer that Jae-woo was spotted near Gi-hoo's residence, hinting that she might have uncovered the truth. Jae-woo, having tended to her wounds, prepares to depart. She takes her father's ashes and the dagger Mu-jin gave her to avenge her father's killer. As she steps out, she's ambushed by assailants who forcibly drag her back into the house. They attempt to drown her in the bathtub. However, Jae-woo fiercely fights back, unleashing an intense struggle. At the same time, Taeju enters Jae-woo's house with the intent of eliminating her. He reveals the truth about Mujin's act of murdering her father due to betrayal. A fierce battle erupts between them, marked by attacks and evasions. Despite the odds, Jae-woo manages to overpower Taeju. He ultimately ends his life in the midst of the intense confrontation. The situation takes a complex turn as Mu-jin willingly surrenders himself to the police to prove his innocence in Gangji's murder. In the interrogation room, Jae-woo confronts Mu-jin, insisting he must face consequences for his actions. The police possess Mujin's dagger and his fingerprints as evidence linking him to Gangji's murder. Jae-woo believes that justice will finally catch up with him. However, Jae-woo discreetly removes the evidence from the evidence room and informs Mu-jin about the altered situation. Simultaneously, Pildo discovers CCTV footage showing Jae-woo near Gi-hoo's residence. It leads everyone to suspect she's the one who attacked him. Despite their efforts to detain her, Jae-woo manages to evade capture. With the evidence against Mu-jin removed, the police find themselves powerless. Believing Jae-woo is still on their side, Mu-jin returns to the gym, only to discover Taeju's lifeless body. It dawns on him that Jae-woo had manipulated the evidence to confront and eliminate him herself. Meanwhile, Pildo learns from Captain Gi-hoo how Mu-jin manipulated Jae-woo within the organization. Jae-woo was eventually caught and taken to the hospital. Despite her attempts to escape, Pildo intercepts her. He emphasizes the dangers of pursuing Mu-jin alone. Jae-woo, fully aware of the risks, remains determined to take matters into her own hands. With no other choice, Pildo handcuffs himself to Jae-woo. Suddenly, they are ambushed by Mujin's men. Despite the difficult situation, they manage to escape. During their time together, Pildo tends to Jae-woo's wounds, fostering a connection that makes Jae-woo realize she's not entirely alone. As the night unfolds, Pildo persuades Jae-woo to consider arresting Mu-jin, aligning with her father's wishes. The budding connection between them is abruptly shattered the following day when Mu-jin, furious at Jae-woo's resistance, kills Pildo in her presence. Devastated, Jae-woo seizes Pildo's gun and flees, consumed by a thirst for vengeance. She arrives at Mujin's hotel, sparking a brutal confrontation with his men. Armed with Pildo's gun, Jae-woo relentlessly takes down each assailant. The showdown culminates in a face-to-face encounter with Mu-jin. In a defiant moment, Jae-woo claims she was initially willing to surrender but now chooses to embrace a monstrous path for revenge. A final intense battle unfolds, leaving Jae-woo critically injured. In a decisive moment, she seizes Mujin's dagger and stabs him, momentarily subduing him. As Mu-jin picks up a pistol in a final desperate move, it's revealed the magazine is empty. Seizing the opportunity, Jae-woo delivers a fatal blow, stabbing Mu-jin in the chest and bringing an end to the long-standing conflict. Remember to subscribe to my channel, and we will see you next time.